Hi everyone, it is I, Leo Brown, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It Tuesday. I know I'm a little late, but I wanted to come on and talk about a subject that may be a bit dicey. But before I go into it, I want to say thank you all for watching, for commenting, for sharing, for most of all subscribing. I know my channel isn't huge, but I thank you all so much for just wanting to hear what I have to say, even if it's something that you may or may not agree with. And while you're at it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I know right now I look very unkempt. I'm giving y'all bear realness today. Don't worry, I will be shaving this off very soon because it's actually starting to irritate me. Anywho, so what I wanted to talk about was and is, I wanted to talk about sexual abuse, but I wanted to talk about it within the gay community. And this is something that we hear about it, but we don't talk about it in depth. And, as all of you know, I am gay, very gay. And I saw a post that really alarmed me. I saw it on Twitter. And it was by this guy. I think he's in the adult industry. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so. And he basically said something to the effect of, like, if he had grown his beard or his mustache, earlier in life, he could have been pulling, younger men, basically. He alluded to basically saying, like, I look so much like a daddy that I'm now pulling guys who are very young. And I found that remark to be very disturbing. And the reason why I did is because it made me think of how many people, because I'm not going to say men, because women do it too, how we glamorize sexual abuse in a way. We glamorize grooming. You know what I mean? We glamorize, like, oh, she's barely legal, or, oh, you're having, you have a crush on your stepfather or your stepmom, or, the MILF who gets the young, the guy that's impressionable and he's 17 or he's 19. And yes, I know that 19 and up or 18 and up is legal. But when you think about it, yes, it may be legal. But when you think about a person from a mental capacity, from an emotional capacity, from even a spiritual level, they're not where you are. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with dating people who are younger than yourself. Because, let me be honest, would I date a younger man? Sure. But I wouldn't date a man that young. I would never date a man that's 19. I'm 39. I would feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? I would feel like I'm doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I really wouldn't. That's my A-frame. Yes, I am on A-frame. But but I would feel like I'm committing something that doesn't, that wouldn't work for me. And I find that especially now, like if for those of you who watch, any, well, not even adult film, but I'm going to go into that. So, like, if you watch a lot of adult films, like, let's be real, I watch adult movies. But what I find is this trend now, especially in gay porn now, it's all about, and I think it's always been here, but it's becoming more commonplace now. It's always about, there's a site, and I hate the name of the site. There's a site called Family, I'm not going to say the rest, but there's a site called Family, and then there's Gay Fest or something like that. And I'm like, why are we? And then there's the other one, Fun Size Boys, which I think is disgusting. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, the family one is just, why are we fantasizing about our uncles, our step parents, our, the muscular grandpa? Here's the thing. Our cousins. I understand that for many gay men, even myself, the first men that we know that kind of model, maybe not who we date, but I think the kind of men that we like are usually the mother's boyfriends, the uncles, the cousins, or their friends. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that I want to have sex with them. I never wanted to have sex with my mother's boyfriends. Okay? Never wanted to do it. Now, I can understand being young and finding someone who is attractive and they're older. I understand that because I went through that. I was 20, even though I was 20 years old, I had the mentality of somebody who was 15. So I often looked to older men because I thought older men equaled maturity. I thought older men equaled stability. Do I feel that way now? No, because I know, being an older gentleman myself, that it's not about your age. It's about your mental capacity and emotional maturity too. And unfortunately, you can meet men who are 40 and 50 and 60 that have the mentality of men or boys who are 12, 11, 10, and 9. Trust me, I've met them. And you can also meet a man who is 25, 22, 24, 33 that has the mentality of someone that's 40. And usually, if you meet someone that is that young and has a maturity for that, because I used to always get that growing up. I used to always get, oh, you're so mature for your age. And it wasn't until I was really getting into therapy that I realized I'm like, it's because of trauma. Normally, when you meet somebody who has, it's either one or two things. Either they've been through a lot of trauma or they just have an old soul, or both. It's a combination of the two. So I find, and I say all this to say, I find that now in the in a lot of adults, and not just adult, themed things, but even in regular stuff. We glamorize the Lolita. We glamorize what was the name of that movie? The guy who was with Jennifer Lopez. And I think she was either a teacher, she was something like that. And he was a young guy. We glamorize things like that. Or taking case in point, when Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore got together. We thought it was cute. And I'm like, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be with somebody, younger. Like I said, I think you should do what makes you happy. But but if you're literally preying on someone or grooming someone, we can talk about R. Kelly. You're grooming someone from the time they're 15 onward that it's okay to be with somebody who's 30. Something's wrong with that. And I find, especially like I said, in the adult world now, you see a lot of that now. And I'm like, what is going on? And now it's going into the OnlyFans thing, people are writing these captions, oh, he's, my brother, he finally gave me. No, I don't know. Because see, here's what happens with that. When you go into that narrative, what happens is you have people that they'll spin it and they'll think, well, it must be true, that stereotype must be true that gay men, in particular, gay men or gay people are perverts, and we're child molesters, and we prey on young men and all, and that's not true. Majority of, and trust me, do your research, majority of child molesters are actually heterosexual men. So, it just, I don't like that narrative, and I don't like how now that's fashionable. And I'm not saying that hasn't been the case, because that's always been the case. I mean, we can go back to Shirley Temple, we can go back to Judy Garland, we can go back to Marilyn Monroe. That's always been the case. But what I've noticed now is that a lot of us feed into it. It's the same thing with no, it's not. That's a whole nother, because I was going to say the same thing. It's the whole straight thing. It's actually not. That's a whole other subject for a whole other day. But it's like, I don't want to know that you want to have sex with your uncle. Okay? I don't want to know that you want, like, I understand I understand wanting a daddy. Okay. I myself, I like men who are older than myself. I do. I always have. I've always been into men that were older or my age. I've never been into uh, men in the sense of, oh, you got to be young. No, I'm not into youth because youth is fleeting. Youth only lasts for a minute. So I'm not really into youth. I've never been a youth, like a youth, uh, like if somebody is, I'll say this: I don't willingly go after somebody who's 22. That's not me. But I've always been attracted to men who are older. So for me, the whole daddy thing, I do get that in a sense. But for me, I look at it in the sense of I want a man that is protective. I want a man that makes you feel safe, secure. You know what I mean? I don't feel like you're going to harm me or my surroundings. I feel okay to drop my wall. I can be vulnerable with you and to you, and the same goes to you. So, to me, that's what a daddy means. Not just a man who happens to be, 30 or 40 and up. And I just don't like the fact that we glamorize that now. Like I said, especially in gay culture, I'm noticing we're doing it more and more and more. And I'm just like, why are we making this okay? Why are we making this the end thing? You know what I mean? Like, why are we making it's the same thing with, the OnlyFans, some of the OnlyFans people taping people on camera and not telling them. Why are we making why and why is it that when it comes to something sexual, when it comes to something between two consenting people, we often make it dirty? Why? Why can't it just be in that moment? It's fun, it's a release, it's something that adults do. Why does it have to be this just why is it always nasty? And I think it's because for a lot of gay men, myself included, we've been told that from the time we were, if you grew up in a really conservative, unless you grew up in a very open, progressive, liberal thinking household, like for me, I was always told that sex was dirty. And when I came out as gay, I was even told it was dirtier. You see what I'm saying? So I think what happens is you end up, instead of making peace with that, you end up using it and it comes out in other ways, and I think that's where a lot of that comes from. But like I said, the whole father-son dynamic, that's been going on since the 80s. But I just noticed lately that's a big deal now. And I've never understood, I don't understand why that's such a, why? Like, is that, I mean, personally, I think it's unhealed trauma. I think it's something that we as gay men need to talk about because I remember like you had Oprah, 200 men who were sexually abused. But I think we need, and I know Iyanla did it. She did a thing with all gay men, which I thought was fantastic. But I think those two things barely scratch the surface. I think as gay men, we need to come together and have a collective discussion, an honest, frank discussion about that and how it shapes our relationships, how we go into intimate relationships, whether it be hooking up, whether it be friends, whether it be a long-term intimate relationship, whether it be friends with benefits. How does the things we've seen, the things we've experienced, the trauma that a lot of us have had, not all, but a lot of us have had, how does it shape us? And for me, when I see these things being glamorized, I'm like, all we're doing is regurgitating trauma all over again. And it's triggering. And I think that's why I want to talk about it, because I just don't understand how we can find it to be okay. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have fantasies. Sure, we all have fantasies. I know I do. But I don't, even in that, there's a limit, even in fantasy, you know, and a lot of us, oh, it's just fantasy. But to someone who does not know that, to a lot of impressionable, immature thinking and feeling men and little boys too, they don't know that. You know what I mean? For a lot, like even for me, for a lot of, well, I won't say about now, but I think for me, a lot of my first um, representations of gay men were through what I saw, and pornography was one of them. Like aside from maybe RuPaul, Jack McFarlane, Ricky from Wilson Cruz with My So-Called Life, and then Noah's Ark, which I didn't get into college. You didn't really see a lot of representation of gay men, and especially gay men of color. That was a no. And then if you did, you saw like the birdcage. You know what I mean? You saw, and what was the guy in the birdcage? Not Nathan Lane, not Robin Williams, but Hank Azaria. He was a houseboy. You know, and it's like, so like people don't realize how that can affect you, and how that does affect and effect how you see yourself. That's why they often say, and I'm grateful they're saying it now, their representation matters, because it does. Because I think, as somebody sat me down and said, listen, just because you're seeing people do this doesn't mean that's all they are. Everybody's different. There's no monolithic way to be. To be gay, to be black, to be disabled, to be whatever. So, but I didn't get those lessons. And I got them, but I got them in spurts. You know what I mean? I got them, I won't say I didn't get them. I did get them, but I got them in like, increments. So I guess the reason why I wanted to bring this to the attention of you guys, is because I'm just like, where does this come from? I mean, and I understand that in any industry, whether it be, the adult industry, the mainstream industry, it's a product. I understand that. And and for a lot of people, it is fantasy. But then you have a lot that act on that. They think that's cute. That think that being violated is what they're supposed to do and who they're supposed to be. You know what I mean? Or not only what they're supposed to do, but the way it works. You know what I mean? And it doesn't. And I'm not saying that you need to be approved, because I'm far from that. But I'm just saying, learn the difference between a fantasy and the reality. And if you don't know, ask. You know what I'm saying? And talk to someone about your feelings. Talk to someone about what is conjuring up, and not just in adult media, but in mainstream media. Because like I said, we've seen it from Pretty Baby to the movie with Brooke Shields to, I'm trying to think of something else that's to like Aaliyah, Aaliyah and R. Kelly. I mean, I could go on and on and on. R. Kelly alone is a good one. Elvis Presley, Elvis and Priscilla, Jerry Lee Lewis. There's just so much that we don't. And I think because of like Me Too times up and stuff, we're talking about it now. But those are, even though sexual abuse in that sense is abuse, because that's abuse of power, as well as physical violations too. But I think in the gay community, we rarely talk about how a lot of men out here will stealth, which means they will, they'll say, okay, I got a condom on, and the person who's on the receiving end doesn't know about it, doesn't know the person took the condom off. Or you've got people that'll say, oh, I don't have any STIs or any STDs, and it turns out they do, but they're not telling people. But they're out here, having sex with them, and not telling them. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having sex. I'm saying what is wrong about it is the dishonesty. That's the part that is wrong, and the violation in that. Whether you are receiving or giving, it doesn't matter. Or you'll have the guy, oh, I'm really, I'm 20, but it turns out he's 17. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we glamorize it a little too much, and that bothers me because we don't talk about how within the community. I mean, let's look at the ballroom culture for just 1 second. How you have a lot of house fathers, and they literally will sleep with the men in the houses. Case in point, that's what Pose alluded to with Ricky and Praytel. You know, even though in that instance, I think Ricky and Praytel in that moment needed each other. I think Praytel was an older man. He was 45. He had a life-altering illness. So did Ricky, and Ricky was young. So I think they saw themselves in one another, which is why they came together. But in real life, because that's TV, but in real life, you have men that will prey on someone who's young and dumb and full of you know what. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, don't do that. And that's why for me, it's really difficult in my experience to but to hook up with somebody who's younger than myself. It really is hard for me because I remember when I was 21. I remember when I was 19. I remember when I was, you know, because I didn't know myself honestly until I was maybe 25, 20, 23, 25, between those ages. So I don't know. It's just something that has been on my mind. I just wanted to discuss it. I wanted to talk about it. I want to see what you guys think. What do you think about it? Do you think that, we have gone a little too far with the whole, what am I trying to say? Crossing the fine line when it comes to, what's appropriate and what's inappropriate, and when it comes to age and sexuality, not just in mainstream media, but also in adult media. And, and this is another thing I want to discuss because I want to discuss fun size boys too. So fun size boys, for those of you who don't know, fun size boys basically is a site where the guys, they're bigger, they're older, and they're taller. And the guys they go after usually are really, really small. They're short, short, lean, and they look very young. They have a very youthful look. And I don't know why, but that creeps me out because I feel like that's kind of not kind of, it is. It kind of borders on the line of molestation to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, okay, no, you know what I mean? And I'm short. But I could just imagine if I was thin, naturally thin, which I am not. And in this instance, I'm grateful I'm kind of not, because I'm like, I wouldn't want to look, you know what I mean? I wouldn't want a person to purposefully pursue me because of, my height. It's like, so I don't know. That always creeps me out a little bit. But anywho, enough about what I think. What do you think when it comes to this subject? Do you think we have gone overboard? Because like I said, this is not new. Do you think that sexual abuse goes on within the gay community? Not just from heterosexuals, but within the gay community, with our families and things like that. And if you do, tell me your experiences. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. I know this subject is kind of dicey, but it was just something I wanted to discuss. So until next time, I will talk with you all soon. My name is Leo Brown, and it's been awesome. Have a great one. Bye-bye.